Would it ever be possible for the state of Alaska to have a pro sports team? That's what we're going to be discussing today. Where would the team be located? What city? What would the time zone be? And what would the sport be? Is there any potential it can happen in the future when it comes to an Alaskan-based football team, basketball team, baseball team, or hockey team? We're going to go through it now. When you look at Alaska, the first thing we're going to talk about is location, and there's really only one potential location. It would be Anchorage, Alaska, by far the most populous city in the state, well over 200,000 people. It's decent in terms of population. We've seen comparable cities get teams. The only issue is the sparse population around Anchorage based off of where it's located, and also the fact that Alaska outside of Anchorage really has no cities that have any type of major population. That's the first issue. It's just the overall population and the market. Now, when it comes to which sport would possibly have an expansion team or a relocation team in Alaska, the obvious choice is the NHL. A lot of this comes down to travel and also the time zone difference, to where most of Alaska, including Anchorage, is 4 hours behind Eastern Standard Time, very similar to what Hawaii is. And then also, just number one, when you look at the NFL, there is no other team in Canada. So the travel would be brutal to Alaska and back, and you know, the NFL would never even consider Alaska based off of its population. The MLB and NBA are in a similar spot where they both have a team in Toronto, but other than that, the travel would still be brutal. And also with MLB, you know, looking at Anchorage, the climate, it doesn't even get to like 50 degrees in May. You're talking about an average high in April of 45 degrees, so it would have to either be a retractable roof, or I'm guessing, because it's such a cold climate, even June, July, the highs are in the mid-60s, have to be a complete dome if you were to have an MLB team up there. But an MLB team would be impossible in Alaska because you really need a significant population center and a support surrounding area to make that work, because the supply is so high with the amount of home games you have each year. And then on top of that, just the travel in terms of playoffs with MLB playing every day, and then you get one travel day. You're talking about a 4-hour time zone difference if the Alaskan-based team is facing a team located in the Eastern Standard Time. And then NBA, I just can't see it for a similar reason based on population. Kind of the only potential chance you would have with Alaska is the NHL, and it makes sense. Very cold. You've already got several Canadian-based teams. It would really help with the travel. You've got Winnipeg, Vancouver, Toronto, Montreal. So that would be better in terms of travel. But when it comes to them actually putting a team for the NHL in Alaska, they did have a lower minor league affiliate for about 20 years, but still only averaged around 4,000 per game. So that just gives you a context. Now, sure, if they got a professional sports team, it would be a lot more. They would be a much bigger draw, but just around 4,000 per game. That should give you a context to why the population in Alaska is just simply not there. Another good example, just for perspective, right now the smallest city in the NHL is Winnipeg, and they have a population of 800,000 people. Anchorage is about 1/4 of a million, so it's about 500,000 people less than the smallest current city in the NHL. And also, Winnipeg has surrounding areas where there is more population. There's just simply not enough people located in and around the Anchorage area to support any type of professional sports team, and it just wouldn't make sense when you consider the travel. The only reason, like, the NFL would consider expanding to London is because the massive market, where London legitimately has a bigger population than New York City, and New York City already has 2 teams. There's really no reason to go up to Alaska and consider putting a team up there. It doesn't make any type of financial sense, and it would just be a complete flop, and players would hate it because of the travel and the cold climate. but you do have some different templates on what an Alaska-based team would look like. The Alaska Explorers, it kind of looks like the Denver Nuggets logo a little bit there, but there are several different logos that you can see. The Alaskan Frost, that's a pretty cool logo as well for an NBA team located in Alaska. But long story short, it's just never going to happen because of the surrounding population being so small. And even Anchorage, even if Anchorage had a population of 500,000, there's just no way they would do it. You would need like a huge base in Alaska for them to consider it because the travel is so ridiculous. And then even on top of that, would that team face a massive disadvantage due to the climate and due to the location, similar to what the Toronto Raptors deal with and their problems of attracting free agents based off of their cold weather climate? So is it at all possible for any type of NFL, MLB, NBA, NHL team to be located in Alaska? I would say the chances are absolutely zero. It has no chance of happening. Now, could you make the argument that the MLB, NBA, or NFL should put another team in Canada? Yeah, you can certainly make that argument. For the NFL, there is the idea that if they do expand, they would be looking at Toronto because that is a huge population for just one team, because right now there's 0 NFL teams located in Canada. So I do think if the NFL does want to think about expansion, Toronto would be a great option because it would be one country rooting for the same team. You could sell so much in terms of merchandise. It would be such, a lot of popularity, kind of like the Toronto Blue Jays being a pretty big market when it comes to MLB. And then you also have the idea of the NBA possibly looking at Vancouver, although I don't think that's going to happen. MLB, they were in Montreal, they left. There's the idea they're going to expand again and possibly look at Montreal or Vancouver. Those seem to be the two cities that get thrown around. Quebec City was thrown around when it was looking like Arizona, the Coyotes possibly were going to move, but now it looks like they're going to stay in Arizona. But either way, that's just kind of my opinion when it comes to Alaska getting a professional sports team. Unless they get a massive population influx, there's just a 0% chance of it happening. Now, if I was forced to put a team in Alaska and try and make it work, it would certainly be an NHL team located right out of Anchorage. You would probably have an arena with around a 14 or 15,000 capacity, which is about 3,000 less than a normal NHL arena, but it would be a hot ticket for at least the first few years. And in general, I do think just judging off the arena ticket sales, it would be fine. The problem is the ridiculously small TV market. Also, the significant travel sacrifice that the other teams would have to endure while traveling there. And then, honestly, it would probably be the worst for the Alaskan-based team in terms of their travel, going different places, having massively long road trips and homestands to try and mitigate the problem. If Alaska somehow had a population in Anchorage of like 6 or 7 million, they would certainly be interested, I'm sure, if they were a massive TV market, because again, the NFL is interested in London just based off of how huge it is. Alaska is part of the United States. It would be easier travel than London. So yeah, if they had enough people, even with the climate, they would make it work, I'm sure, but they just don't have that. So Alaska certainly is a cool place, but in terms of getting a pro sports team, it's just not going to happen for a litany of reasons. Guys, that's going to do it for this video. Make sure you're following me on X. Link to that's always in the description.